Originally released in 2019 by FYQD Studio and called Bright Memory Chapter 1, FYQD Studio is a one developer studio, so I'm going to be taking that into my consideration for my review. It's a first-person shooter with sword combat intertwined along with time travel and big boss fights. At first, I thought the game didn't know what it wanted to be, but as I continued to play, I could see the vision. I'm Court Lalonde from Xbox A, and this is Bright Memory Infinite on the Xbox Series X in review. Bright Memory Infinite isn't a long game, but what it lacks in length is made up in gameplay. You follow the main character, Sheila, as she tries to prevent the SIA from getting an ancient power that can wake the dead. Sheila also has powers. She can pull the enemies and raise them into the air, bring them towards her and cut them up with her sword or shoot them with a gun. It takes place in a cloud city high above the Arctic. For a one developer studio, I will say I was impressed. I played it on my Xbox Series X at 4K 60 frames per second and did notice slight frame dips from here and time, but it only happened when there was too many things going on the screen at one time. As you travel down broken down roads towards your next objective, you can be caught off guard by how well the environment around you looks, with some dynamic lighting and rich textures. With dark palettes used throughout the game, I found sometimes the enemies blended in, mainly the military enemies, but when you travel back in the time, the enemies with more color, they all pop out. Boss design is where the game shines, with rich textures and interesting design choices made. The bosses are the hardest challenge in the game, as they should be. No two bosses look the same, and the detail on each is well appreciated. The audio didn't stand out at all, and I even tried wearing my headset to see if there was any extra immersion, but couldn't find any. I felt it was lacking in the audio department and could have used from maybe some use of the wind, the rain, and the lightning in the world to give it some level of extra immersion, because there's so much going on, and I felt that they could use that just to, bring you more into the game. The shooter aspect is very well done, and there is a variety of guns to choose from and ammo types to vanquish your foe. The sword melee combat is what I found I used the most, alongside stopping time ability. I did notice it was far too easy to just block with my sword during boss fights, and did find myself cheesing out boss fights where you could just block, use your sword, block, use your sword. But hey, you get achievements that way. The traversal in the game at times felt forced to prolong the game or just to show off what the developer can do. There is an upgrade tree, but I didn't end up actually using it. I was upgrading my character at the beginning of the game, but then I just stopped, and by the end of the game, I just had all these unusability points. There is some instances in the game which you think you can interact with an environment or need to swim, but nothing ever seems to happen. They do introduce a grapple and even a car at some parts in the game. The grapple I found to be useful, but the car didn't seem to fit the narrative of what I was playing. There are portions of the game which require stealth, but little to no places to hide, and the stealth was kind of very hard. It didn't make any sense, so it just made more sense to just go out and kill the enemies. But then, as you kill the enemies, you're only stuck with a meat cleaver, and you kill the enemies, and they drop weapons, but yet you somehow can't pick up those guns. I didn't understand. The stealth to me was just didn't need to be there, because this game is very action-packed, using the sword and using the guns. Stealth part just didn't need to be part of the game. It only took me about just under 2 hours to finish the game, but I liked my time I spent with it. Being a parent, I don't always have time to play a game, so a 10 to 15 hour campaign is sometimes just too much for me. It was a game that tried to do different things with combat and shooting mechanics, and I felt I hadn't played before, which was a breath of fresh air. The fact that it made by one person goes a long way in my review, because I'm astonished on what they were able to accomplish. I wouldn't call this an excellent game or a great game. I just call it a good game. It does make me have my eye out for what the developer does next, and it's more of a game that looks perfect for Game Pass or perfect for PlayStation Plus, that you'll just go in, have a great experience with, and everybody can learn what the developer can do, and then wait for it to go on sale. That's my review. Thank you.